Hey everybody, welcome to the second edition of GOALAZO here on FSI. I'm Alex Super, coming here to bring you some GPP strategies for the weekend. No classic slate this weekend in EPL. We got the FA Cup at 12:30 on Saturday, and also the 3 o'clock game isn't even posted yet as a showdown, so we're not even going to cover that, unfortunately. But we're going to get into the FA Cup. We're going to go through that showdown and kind of how you can get to some different builds perhaps, and some strategies and lineup building. Also at the end, we'll touch today, Friday's Manchester City Newcastle, what should be a shellacking, but we don't really know because City's already won the title. So if you're watching on Saturday, watch half the video. Actually, let it run until the end so we get the time. But like and subscribe down below to FSI coverage all the time. WNBA just started again. If you're playing soccer and if you want to continue to play some niche sports and find some places where the sharks aren't really swimming and you can win some big cash, check out Gator's WNBA video. I know I am. I got some 20 maxes going, so I'm ready for that. But let's dive into the FA Cup. See if I can share my screen here. Saturday, 12:30, Chelsea versus Leicester. So looking at the odds really quick, Chelsea minus 106 favorite, Leicester plus 311. Obviously, someone's going to win this. It's a cup final, so I don't know how you place money on the draw. I think that's if it goes to penalties. That's neither here nor there. So Chelsea, a minor favorite, but a favorite nonetheless, and you would expect them to be favorited. Just kind of thinking about the game atmosphere. Again, obviously, it's a cup final. Both teams want to win, but I think Chelsea really wants to get out ahead and get some additional silverware before the Champions League final coming up later in the month against City. I think if you win this, you get the side feeling a little better. Obviously, they got to go on and still secure top four, but I think it really starts here. Leicester's a fine side, but Chelsea, I think they don't need this, but I think it goes a long way if they do pull it down. I'm going to look at the props really quick. Something I do a lot, for better or for worse, is I take a look at the exact score odds to try and kind of guide where I might go. So 1-0 Chelsea. Generally, the 1-0 is going to be the highest favored score. Sometimes it's 0-0 if it's like a Burnley Newcastle match or something like that, and they're like, it's an object at rest is going to stay in rest until it's put in motion. That's how I always view it. So a lot of times I love scripting for 0-0. I love scripting for 1-0 in showdowns because it's got to start there at 0-0, and generally, it's tough enough to get one goal, let alone six. If you get six, sometimes you can catch it, sometimes you don't, depending on how you're scripting. So 1-0 Chelsea and 1-1 with Leicester 550. Again, I don't know how that pays out. I assume if it goes to penalties, that's how you get to it. But also Chelsea 2-0 and Chelsea 2-1 are ahead of 0-0 heading into penalties. So obviously, again, Chelsea favored. It's just a matter of how many goals they score and if Leicester gets on the board. I'm going to go back to the regular odds really quick and just take a look at the team totals. So the odds on Chelsea to score 1 and the odds on Leicester to score 1. Higher on Leicester barely to get a goal than not get a goal. So, yeah, again, you're scripted 1-0, 1-1. That's not different from a whole lot of situations. I don't know, I don't think you want to go script for a 2-1 all the time, but you definitely can, especially in the way that I like to build. So let's look at the actual slate. We'll look at flex prices really quick so we can get a little better handle on this. So Kelechi Iheanacho, is the top priced player on the slate. And I think that's a good thing. I really like that for a number of reasons. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, really tight across the top here. I mean, these are all the guys, I guess down to 7-8 at Ben Chilwell. But you're looking here at like big time goal scorers, your set guys, kind of your sort of cashy, but can get goal forwards. Harvey Barnes isn't playing. Kai Havertz, if he plays, is going to be up front. Yuri Tielemans, Mark Albrighton on sets, kind of same for Hudson-Odoi and Chilwell. But yeah, the really expensive guys up here, not too different. So it's gonna make it a little tight in how you make these builds. So let's look at the projected lineups really quick. Here's Leicester, kind of the same thing you're expecting. Vardy and Nacho up front with Madison. Pereira and Castagna. You prefer Castagna, I believe, on the right. So if he's on the left here, I don't think it makes a huge difference, especially as an underdog. Like, if the price makes sense, there's probably not a lot of other guys that are going to make sense. But Tielemans without Albrighton, so Tielemans would be on the sets here over Madison as of lately. Madison's a whole nother beast. We'll cover that. And 3 center backs, doesn't really matter. Kepa in goal for Chelsea. Chilwell and Azpilicueta, which makes sense. More of a defensive lineup. I've seen differing lineups here. I've seen Havertz and Werner, like you see right here. I've also seen Werner up front with Ziyech out there as well. So I don't know that changes much with how you approach things. Havertz is the cheapest of the 3, but again, barely. So if you're playing GPPs, and we're approaching this from a GPP standpoint, you want to get different. So the most obvious way to get different is to take the underdog, and that's Leicester. So on a 1-0 build, you decide who your goal scorer is, grab some people who might get the assist, fill with floors, and then try to get the keeper. If you want to go straight 1-0, hopefully if you're playing GPP, you have multiple lineups and you can script for multiple things. So you don't have to go with the keeper. You can get to someone else, and that gives you kind of a hybrid 1-0, 1-1. So the reason I like Nacho as the cheapest player on the slate, or the most expensive player on the slate rather, is you still have so much name recognition. I didn't even touch the fact that Jamie Vardy is not even in this top group. Jamie Vardy is 7,200. He's got a lot of name recognition. He takes penalties, and he's so cheap. So he's going to be popular. I keep thinking that as Kelechi Iheanacho scores, he's going to be more popular. In this match, I don't think it's going to happen. At 10-2, when you're going to have people wanting to get to Werner and Madison and Mount and maybe Ziyech, Tielemans way up here, Chilwell, and then fit Vardy in, like, I don't think there's going to be a lot of ownership on Nacho. So taking a look at these stats, kind of what I went over last week with Christian Benteke, who went out and scored in the second minute and made me look good. I want to look at those shots on goals per 90. So Jamie Vardy creating the most XG and XA by quite a large margin for Leicester, and that makes sense, especially as he started longer. But you're looking at Nacho here, way fewer minutes, half the minutes of Vardy with just about half the goal expectancy. He's been on fire, and it's not for no reason. Right here, this is that number. 1.5 shots on target per 90. When you look at Vardy, he's under 1. Madison's right here. Harvey Barnes was balling before he got hurt, but he's taking a lot of shots. So if it's me, if I'm playing this 10,000 to first, my first lineup is I'm captaining Kelechi Iheanacho. I don't think he'll be owned. And if he scores, when you're thinking about GPPs, you don't want to think about what do I think will happen. You want to think about what will happen to me if this happens. What will happen to my lineups if this happens? And then consider how realistic that build is. I think it's very realistic that Leicester could win 1-0 on a Kelechi Iheanacho goal. So the other thing I like to do, and I cover this all the time on Tilt City, especially with teams with 2 strikers, I love playing both. A lot of times you get a striker being assisted by the other striker. A lot of times they're very high priced and people don't get to that build. Do I think it happens here? Probably not. I think a lot of people will get to it. So I'm going to drop down. I'm going to put Vardy on the squad. So we're still at just about 6,900. This is where you think, am I playing for the clean sheet? In which case, if you are, where's my boy? Drop Casper in there, you get some salary back. At this point, if you're saying, all right, I have the 2 goal scorers, I think this is where you go to Mason Mount on sets. So you're covered from a Chelsea perspective now. And this is kind of where you get weird from here. I'm not going to show you all exact lineups, but this is kind of the position too where you consider, especially in GPP lineups and Showdown, you think probably with every lineup, who do I want to fade? Who are the high ownership guys that I want to fade? It's not often that you can just jam a bunch of chalk in here. In this case, it's probably James Maddison, but yeah, you can't even get to him in this build. So there's your guy. This probably becomes, well, you're still missing a Leicester set guy, which I think is important, especially with the pricing. And then you can probably just grab a defender. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is you fade Mount, you go Maddison. You're still on the same build. You just find someone else for Chelsea. You can probably afford Chilwell. I don't want to start building most of this lineup past where I already have it. But you could probably do that and then really punt on Chelsea. I don't know if that's the way to do things because this is probably going to be an open game. Even if it's 1-0, Chelsea's probably going to have someone who racks up some amount of points. You know, they're going to have possession. So that's something to consider, but also not a lot of DFS goodness out of Chelsea. So be careful where you're filling for them and how you're getting to this exact lineup. But this is kind of where I'm going to start just based on ownership. Like I want to get different. I'm trying to take 10,000. These are really top heavy contests. So like you need to make a lineup to try and win or else it's not worth it. Unless you win, unless you find a way to win. But even if you chop it 8 ways, like that's a lot of lost EV. And generally there's a way that you could upgrade that lineup just a tiny little bit. Like say you're between Johnny Evans and Kaglar Soyuncu, and for some reason, I mean, Johnny Evans has been hot, so like maybe he's 20% owned. It's not going to be the case, but say he's 20% owned and Soyuncu is going to be like 3% owned. There is plenty of a chance that Soyuncu gets his head to a corner and all of a sudden he's sitting like a 0.6 points ahead of Johnny Evans. And that makes the difference at the top of the GPP. Like you can definitely sacrifice a couple of, we're talking center back, so floor points probably isn't the way you want to look at it, but like median points for some differential. You definitely want to do that in GPPs, especially in these big ones. If you're playing other ones like Go Wild, if you chop at the top, like you're not going to lose that much because the prize pools are a little more even. But another way really quick to get to this lineup is just ditch Schmeichel and make it a 1-1 build. So we're going back to Mount and say you want to go Werner. You can find a way to make this work. This is a 1-1 with a lot of chalk scoring, but like you're covered. And then Nacho doesn't leave you a lot of room to get to some ancillary pieces, but he would have to take some more shots and outscore some of these guys to make that captainship worth it, especially if you can't get to some higher price players who actually have floors with this remaining salary. So again, turning it around really quick, like a 1-0 build for Chelsea, Werner, Mount, Chilwell, Kepa. At this point, can you get Tielemans? You can't even get Tielemans with this build. So you're really punting on Leicester here. You're looking down in the, probably the Pereira. You're looking at a Pereira Castagna and then probably gets you to Aspie or, yeah, like that's not going to get you much. So probably whoever you think has the higher floor, Pereira and Castagna. I don't see any problem going 1-0 build here. You could probably sacrifice Chilwell, go Tielemans, Azpilicueta, and take your pick on that last little part. Generally, if I'm scripting 1-0 and I do have the keeper, I try to grab another fullback if I can. In this build, you can't. But probably a defender. With 5,600, though, you don't have to do that because there could be someone like a Conte, maybe Jorginho, if you can afford him. He's here, so you could afford him at 4,800 in that build. Then you're covered for a penalty as well, and you're looking at a 2-0. That's a good way to get different, probably, especially if it gets you somewhere else. Really quick looking at this, like you can fade Mason Mount. You want to get different, fade Mason Mount. Highest owned player on the slate right here, probably, except maybe Jamie Vardy. But I would assume it's still going to be Mason Mount, and it's going to be Ben Chilwell. I think you can flip them, and all of a sudden, you're looking good for. Again, I don't know what you do with this cash because it's not going to get you up here for someone like Havertz. You can get Havertz here. See, this is a good 2-0 build, and then you just punt with a center back there. I'm giving out way too much for these types of builds, but you see what I'm going for. Like, I would script for 1-0. The only other way I think you do this is you put Werner up top, Mount, grab Vardy, get rid of Kepa because you're banking on Vardy to score. Like, don't play Vardy and Kepa. There's no reason to do that. Vardy's floor is not there, and Kepa would only get you points if he has a clean sheet. So I'm probably not telling you something you didn't already know, but I would stay away from that. If you can grab Nacho here, you can still make this work, and you got a GOALAZO lineup, and it's not a terrible build, and I think you can still get to Azpilicueta and then punt, depending on who's available at 3,000. Like, are you going to be able to punt down here? None of these guys are playing. Maybe Christensen, but Sunuc is 32. So at that point, like, you can't afford Azpilicueta, but you can afford Jorginho. 2-1 with a penalty from Jorginho, and you're cooking. So one last build I want to cover is an onslaught build. I don't think this happens here, but I think you could definitely get some savings by capping Kasper Schmeichel and hoping that he takes a lot of shots on goal. I don't think Chelsea are a team that's going to bombard a keeper with a bunch of shots on goal. But in this build, you can just go boom, boom. We'll say Ziyech, hope he starts Chilwell. And then a lot of times I want Kepa in this build to protect like a 0-0. But yeah, you can kind of fill it in from there. You don't have to go Ziyech. You can get Kepa instead of Chilwell, something like that. Or you can find a way to get the Tielemans instead of Chilwell. Something like this where you're still getting sets. But that's a different build that you can go on. Another 1-0 build. Kepa. Mount. Sure. Chilwell. So, and then pick your goal scorer. You're looking at 1-0. Like, Werner's not going to put up a huge floor. If Kepa, being in your captain spot, getting a clean sheet, getting 15 points without any saves at all, is going to get you somewhere else in that build, like get you another player that you couldn't get by capping Timo Werner, who might have like an 18-point captainship spot, I think that's a decent way to go. So that kind of covers the FA Cup slate for me. Again, goal scorer in the captain spot. Pick some guys who might assist them. If it's a striker and there's another striker, I highly advise doing that. And then decide whether or not you want the keeper, then fill the floors. And then take that same build. If you're multi-entering, take that same build, copy it, get rid of the keeper, build it out with maybe another goal scorer from the other side, because if you're taking away the keeper, that means you think the other team's going to score, or at least you want to prepare for that. So find a guy maybe who has a good floor and ceiling, grab that guy, fill with floors, and then go back to that lineup and take someone out who you think is going to be high on, like a Mason Mount, put probably like a Ziyech or a Havertz in there to potentially score and cover Mount's floor, and you're off and rolling. I think if you find a lineup you like just enter it 10 times with a bunch of different one-offs, and then maybe change some other guys and leave some salary, things like that. Get creative, but get different. Get different in these GPPs, especially these big ones. You have to do it. Okay, let's move on really quick to today, Friday's City Newcastle match. Yeah, this is a big big difference here. Newcastle plus 1,000, City minus 326, 3-3. So City's going to need some rotation because they're not going to play for anything for another 12 days. So here's kind of what you're looking at. Jesus up front. Mahrez, Foden, Silva, Rodri, Gundogan, Zinchenko, Walker, Henderson. Sure. Newcastle. Richie's really the only guy you're looking at here from a floor perspective, but you can get weird with any of these four guys as potential goal scorers in this one. Jacob Murphy also, too, I guess, gets forward. So De Bruyne is the most expensive player on the slate, followed by Foden and Mahrez. This is one where, like, you're probably thinking about a 5-1, and you're just automatically, like, if De Bruyne is not in, Foden, Mahrez, like, from a cash perspective, I think you're absolutely starting there. Zinchenko is, I mean, cheap enough to where he's going to make a difference. Let me look at the lineup again for City. I think then you just choose between one of these two, or Gundogan, and then Rodri probably fills some space. Gundogan's expensive again. Silva's more expensive than Jesus, so I'm going Jesus all day. I think he makes a fine captain spot. I don't think you can fit Ederson in this build. Yeah. So all of a sudden you're looking at Matt Ritchie, who's only 5,800. You can't even do that. So you're going to have to, and then you can punt. Probably going to have to punt with, yeah, a Clark or a Kraft, someone from Newcastle in that lineup. But, you know, that's kind of your standard attack build. You get the three main goal scorers, Zinchenko on some floor and Ritchie. Like, I don't even know that that's the ideal way to build here. I assume you can probably get Jesus in the captain spot with Mahrez. And yeah, you could get something else there. You could also fade Ritchie and just completely punt here. And then, yeah, 7,300. That might be enough to get Ederson. I shouldn't do this, but I'll check. It is. So there's your 1-0 build. That's a pretty simple 1-0 build. If you think that City is going to dominate, they don't need this one. They're obviously much better. They're a much better team. But they don't necessarily have to dominate. I mean, like, this is a perfect spot for this lineup right here. Boom, 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 boom. And then whatever there. Or if you don't want him, Gundo or Silva. Like, you're still getting a lot of salary left over. You get your Newcastle piece. And there's a good chance that Dubravka is just absolutely punished in this one. And he's also a good shot saver. That's another thing to consider with keepers. There are guys who, I don't know if this is available. And going back to Leicester just because they're up. I don't know if it's on here. Advanced goalkeeping. Yeah, so right here, post-shot expected goals minus goals allowed. So the difference, basically, this is like some advanced baseball stats where if you've heard of like expected stats, this is, well, and that's XG, obviously, but this is the difference between the XG of the shots taken against him and then you subtract the actual goals scored. So positive is a good number. Dubravka, I believe, is quite solid in that area. I think he's a good shot stopper. So he is a guy who I definitely like building those onslaught. Yeah, so he's plus 2.8. Like, that's pretty good. I don't know. Can I look at, we're going to get a little weird. And let's see if I can look at the leaders in that particular stat in the Premier League, because I think Dubravka is near the top. So as a team, Aston Villa, see that, like, that makes sense. Emi Martinez is always stopping shots. Whereas, ooh, is that Alex McCarthy? That's rough pumpkins. All right, there you go. Best shot stoppers in the league. This all tracks. I'm shocked. Allison generally isn't this high. So shouts to Allison. I didn't think Sanchez would be above Pope, but like this all tracks for me. These are the guys that I think of as the top goal scorer, or the top goalkeepers rather, in the Premier League. But Areola, holy cow. The fact that they still went down and he was so good in goal, give that man a raise. Or better yet, get him to Tottenham. Lloris has been fine still. What about per 90? So these are the guys who are facing the most shots. Areola again, Sanchez, Martinez, Allison, Lloris. So there's Fabianski. And where'd our guy go? So Dubravka's up here. I think he's high enough to warrant going to that build that I'm talking about, where you captain him, hope he sees 8 shots. Again, this is for GPPs. This is, you just got to hope City shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots from kind of outside the box. Like, they don't need to grind to get goals here. They don't need to get themselves hurt. They don't need to tire themselves out by making a bunch of runs in the box. Like, they can take 11 shots from outside the goal box and pepper Dubravka. He could save 10 of them, still give one up. If you can get Ederson in there, they win 1-0, you get the goal score, and Dubravka goes nuts. Like, you're going to be able to fit so many other people. People are taking those shots, even if it's 3-4-0, and he makes 8 saves. Like, him in the captain spot could push you above the rest because you can fit so much else in your lineup. So that's why I really like that lineup here. Pretty much any City slate, and it's not against the top 6 side or a big 6 side, I'm making at least one of those builds. So that's just some ways to get different. That's today on Friday. Probably be back with a classic slate. Next weekend. Well, next weekend is going to be the end of the Premier League, and we're going to have to get real weird for that one. Big prize pool, a lot of tickets on the finale, everyone playing at the same time. So I don't know how I'm going to handle that. I haven't played that everybody playing at once thing in a really long time. So we'll see how that goes. But if you have any questions, follow me on Twitter at LexSuper or leave them in the comments here. I'll be checking those as well. And if you have any ideas, we can run through them. But yeah, follow me on Twitter, tweet me if you have any questions, or if you like the video and enjoy kind of the way that I'm looking at things. And if you have success, I'd love to hear about your successes. I had some people popping into my mentions last weekend after Benteke scored, like, hey, I watched and I played him and here he was. And then I was the dummy who didn't actually play Etse after touting him on the show because Andros Townsend got in the lineup. I didn't play him. Didn't end well for me, but I still did all right. So thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be back next week for a crazy one, probably. That slate should be live, so we should have that one up Friday morning, and let's get weird. But enjoy the weekend, and I wish you all the success in these showdown builds, a little different. So until next time, we'll see you.